Amelia unpacked the last box, her heart brimming with a mix of anticipation and nerves. Moving to the small town of Willow Creek was a big decision, a chance to start fresh. The cozy house, nestled amidst rolling hills, promised a tranquil life. As she arranged her books on the shelf, a knock on the door announced the arrival of her next-door neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins. Mrs. Jenkins, a friendly woman with a warm smile, welcomed Amelia to Willow Creek. "If you need anything at all, dear, don't hesitate to ask," Mrs. Jenkins offered kindly. Amelia felt a surge of gratitude. Maybe this fresh start was just what she needed. As they chatted, Amelia, remembering she needed a few toiletries, inquired about the nearby pharmacy. A shadow flickered across Mrs. Jenkins's face. "Well," she began, "there's old man Thompson's pharmacy on Main Street. He's, let's just say, a bit rough around the edges." Amelia, though slightly taken aback, made a mental note to be patient with the pharmacist. Over the next few days, Amelia settled into her new surroundings. She explored the charming shops on Main Street and enjoyed the peaceful quiet of her backyard. One sunny afternoon, while watering her newly planted flowers, she saw Mrs. Jenkins walking towards her, a basket overflowing with fresh produce in hand. "Afternoon, Amelia," Mrs. Jenkins greeted her cheerfully. "Just got back from the farmer's market. These tomatoes are divine." Amelia, admiring the vibrant red tomatoes, couldn't help but ask about the pharmacy. "Did you need something from old man Thompson's?" Mrs. Jenkins chuckled. "Oh, no, dear. I always dread going there. He's grumpy as ever, never cracks a smile." Amelia listened patiently as Mrs. Jenkins recounted her recent encounter with the pharmacist. He had apparently grumbled about the younger generation and their lack of manners. Some people just love to complain, Amelia thought to herself. A few days later, Amelia ran out of her allergy medication. Remembering Mrs. Jenkins's warnings, she braced herself for an unpleasant encounter at old man Thompson's pharmacy. As she entered the shop, the scent of lavender and chamomile washed over her. The shelves were lined with neatly arranged bottles and jars. Behind the counter stood a man with a head full of white hair, reading a newspaper. He looked up as Amelia approached. "Good afternoon," Amelia said politely. To her surprise, the man smiled warmly. "Well, hello there. What can I do for you?" Amelia's apprehension melted away. He was nothing like Mrs. Jenkins had described. They chatted amiably as he filled her prescription. Amelia learned that his name was Mr. Thompson, and he had been a pharmacist in Willow Creek for over 40 years. The following week, Amelia bumped into Mrs. Jenkins at the grocery store. "I went to old man Thompson's the other day," Amelia remarked casually. Mrs. Jenkins gasped. "Oh dear, was he as grumpy as ever?" Amelia smiled. "Not at all. He was incredibly kind and helpful. We had a lovely conversation." Mrs. Jenkins looked perplexed. "That's odd," she muttered. "He's always so grumpy with me." Amelia, realizing what was happening, decided to share a little wisdom. "You know, Mrs. Jenkins, I've noticed that people tend to mirror the way you treat them. If you approach someone with kindness and respect, they're more likely to reciprocate." Mrs. Jenkins pondered this for a moment. "You know," she said slowly, "I think you might be right. From now on, I'm going to make an effort to be more respectful towards Mr. Thompson, even if he is a bit grumpy at first." Amelia smiled, her heart full. She had a feeling that Willow Creek was going to be a very special place to live.